Hello, my lovelies, and welcome or welcome back to my channel, Bookalicious, where we talk all things books. And I'm so excited to discuss my April reading wrap up with you guys. I read a total of 8 books in April. Did I want to read more books? Yes, I did. But did I read some really great books? Yes, I did. And I'm so excited to discuss those books with you. So let's get right into it. So the first book I read in April was The Prisoner's Throne by Holly Black, the queen of YA enemies to lovers fantasy books. I love the Cruel Prince series by her. That series is just one of my all-time favorites. And this is a new series by Holly Black. It's a spin-off duology that follows one of the side characters from the Cruel Prince trilogy. One of the characters who was the main character's younger brother is all grown up now and he's having his own adventure, falling in love, and you're just basically in his POV. And I cannot really give too much away because this is the second book in a duology, the last book in a duology, and if I talk too much about it, it would definitely give spoilers for the Cruel Prince series and then also the first book in the series. But I really loved this book. I gave it 4.75, so close to being a 5-star read. The only reason why it wasn't 5 stars is because I was not completely obsessed with the romance in this book, and I knew that the romance wasn't going to be as amazing as Jude and Carden's love story because Jude and Carden are just so iconic and I love them so much. But that's the only thing that really kind of lacked for me. And I did enjoy the romance in this book. It just wasn't on the level that I would have wanted it to be. But it was still cute. And I loved the fantasy politics. I loved the whole world of Elfheim. The writing style is so whimsical, so beautiful. Everything you could want in a YA fantasy book, and I just really love these characters, and I hope to see more books set in Elfheim in the future. The second book that I read in April was The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. This book has been on my TBR for so long, and I turned 20 in April, and everyone was always saying, this is such a great book to read once you turn 20. And it's basically about this young woman named Esther, and you're basically just following her daily life, the job that she has, seeing her fall in love and seeing her friendships and all of those things. And then eventually the book kind of shows her spiral down the path of mental health, and it gets very emotional in that way. I did enjoy this book. I gave it 3 stars, which is a little bit of a low rating, but it's not because I think the book is bad. It's because it is a literary fiction, and I do not love literary fiction books, but I actually got a little book prompt for the month of April to try and read a literary fiction book. And so this one I picked, and again, the book was not bad at all. It's just literary fiction is not a genre that I can really connect to, and it's not a genre that I am really interested by. But if you love literary fiction, then you definitely need to add this book to your TBR, because if you are a lit fic reader, then I think you would absolutely love the writing style, which is just very clever, and it's a very beautiful writing style, and it is a very impactful book for sure, and it's a very important book as well. And I did, have a good time with it, and I'm very happy that I read it finally. The third book I read in April was Time Riders by Alex Scarrow. This is just a fun little adventure with time travel, and it's YA, it's sci-fi. I did get a reading prompt to read a book with time travel. This was the only book I owned that, had the time travel element, so I was like, obviously I'm going to read this. And I've owned this book for so many years, so I was so happy to finally get it off my bookcase. There's just such a great feeling when you have a book on your bookcase for so long and you finally read it. And it doesn't even matter if it's like, a book that you love or a book that you don't love. If you've had a book on your bookcase for like 8 years or 10 years and you finally read it, it feels like such an accomplishment. And I gave this book 3.25. And again, not a bad book at all, just not a book for me because time travel and sci fi and, those types of genres don't really interest me that much. but it was a really, cute, fun adventure. And I think that if you love sci-fi and time travel, that you should definitely read this book. And you follow a lot of different POVs, and it does have, an interesting plot that did keep me intrigued. And this book has such short chapters. The book is about 400 pages, and it has like 96 chapters or something. Like, it's crazy. And I love short chapters because that helps to keep me interested, because long chapters are just the absolute worst, in my opinion. But I did appreciate the pacing of this book and the way the story just kept flowing, and the story just kept staying really fast paced, which I think was amazing. So, again, not an amazing book, in my opinion, but still a really fun book for people who are fans of sci fi and time travel. The next book I picked up in April was When in Rome by Sarah Adams, who is slowly becoming one of my new favorite rom com authors. She wrote The Cheat Sheet, which I talked about in my March reading wrap up. Absolutely loved that book, and this book was so good as well. I gave it 4.5, and it's just the most wholesome, most adorable, most cute romance. No spice as well. For all of the no spice girlies, I think you definitely need to add this to your TBR because it's just amazing. And it is an adult rom-com, because it focuses on characters who are in their late 20s, but it is, appropriate and suitable, in my opinion, for people who are 15 years old and up, in my opinion. And I think it really does the grumpy sunshine trope really well. She's very bubbly, and then he's super grumpy, but he's a really sweet and just sensitive guy as well. And she has her own issues that she's dealing with that he helps her with. And I loved the small town trope. The way everyone was so nosy in this book was so funny. And I loved the close proximity. The one of us is famous trope was really fun because she's a pop star, and then he just is a baker in this small town. And I just really liked, how they bonded and their emotional connection. And I really loved their romance. And I think this book was just so funny, so sweet, and so romantic. And I'm currently reading the second book in this little duology, or this little series, and I'm liking that as well. And I just think Sarah Adams is really good at writing just very fun, easy, bingeable romances that I would highly recommend. The next book I read was Tower of Dawn, written by Sarah J. Maas. Do you guys know who that is? I don't know if you guys know who that is. It's not like she's the queen of fantasy books or anything like that. Um, but I obviously cannot talk too much about this book and what it's about, because this is the second to last book in the very popular Throne of Glass series, and I would never forgive myself if I spoiled this series for any of you. But I will say that it follows a side character that is not very well liked. I really like him, but I know a lot of other people don't particularly enjoy him as a character and find him boring or find him annoying, but I've always liked him as a character. And so it was really fun to be able to just see him kind of get the spotlight in this book and see him fall in love and see his POV. And this book focuses very heavily on fantasy politics. It's not very action based. It's a lot of the politics in fantasy, and there is a really amazing enemies to lovers in this book as well, which I love that trope, my favorite trope of all time, and I think it was done really well, which is really funny because sometimes the way Sarah J. Maas writes romance is not my favorite, but I really loved it in this book, and I just had a really good time with it. I gave it 4 stars. Not my favorite book in the series, but not my least favorite. So I'm very happy that I read this, and I'm currently reading Kingdom of Ash right now. So everyone who I love in this series better stay alive. The next book I read was Addison Cook and the Treasure of the Incus, written by Jonathan W. Stokes. Gave this one 3 stars. Not a bad book, just way out of my age level. But sometimes middle grade books are my favorite things ever. I mean, Harry Potter series, School for Good and Evil series, amazing books that I love so much. And this book has been on my bookcase for about 8 years, and I just cannot get rid of a book or donate a book without reading it first. So that's why I wanted to read it. I also got a prompt to read the shortest book on my TBR, and it was this book. And I read this really quickly, which I did enjoy that. And I think, if I was 12 years old or 10 years old, I would have gone crazy for this book and I would have made it my whole personality. And it's just a very cute middle grade book. If you have younger siblings, then maybe you would want to get it for them because I think they would really enjoy it. But just very adventurous, very fun, and it was just a very quick read, which I'm very happy for. The next book I read in April was Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett. This is categorized as adult fantasy, but in my opinion, it's totally suitable for kids who are like 12 and 13 and up. And it's not explicit, no spice. The writing style is very clever. It feels like a classic literary fantasy book. The writing is very clever, and it does follow characters who are adults, characters who are in their late 20s or 30s, but there's nothing explicit in here. So even if it's in the adult fantasy section, this is one book that I think anyone can enjoy. It's a cozy fantasy. It's got the grumpy sunshine reversed tropes. So our main character, Emily Wilde, is very grumpy. She's giving black cat energy. And then her love interest, Wendell, he is very bubbly. He is the sunshine. He's giving golden retriever energy, which we love to see. And I just absolutely loved their dynamic. I loved their romance. This book has fae. It's like light academia, and it's just a very adorable, cozy fantasy. I really enjoyed it. Gave it 4 stars. The only reason why it wasn't 5 stars is because some parts felt a little bit boring at times. And if you do not like cozy fantasy, or if you're not in the mood for cozy, low stakes fantasy, then do not pick this up. Otherwise, you probably will find it boring. But it was a really good read. The writing style was very lyrical, very beautiful. I really enjoyed the characters and the plot. There wasn't much plot, but it does get a bit of a plot near the end of the book, and I really enjoyed that. And I'm very excited to eventually pick up the sequel. The final book I read in April was also my only one 5 star read for the month, and I knew it was going to be 5 stars because it's a Holly Jackson book. She wrote the A Good Girl's Guide to Murder series and Five Survive. I love those books with all my heart, and so I knew that this was going to be another amazing mystery by her. And this follows our main character Belle, who's doing this docu-series about, trying to discover why her mother just vanished. Like, was her mother taken? Was she, did she voluntarily decide to leave? And Rachel eventually comes back home, and she has reappeared, and her daughter Belle is very suspicious, and she's trying to find clues and answers as to the real reason why her mother disappeared in the first place. And I just really enjoyed this book. I will say that the main character, Belle, is one of the most unlikable characters I've read in my entire life. At least one of the most unlikable characters I've read in, a contemporary YA book. She was just so disrespectful, so just rude, and just brash and awful, and just some of the things that she would say, like some of the things that would come out of her mouth, I would be like, what is wrong with you? But she does have some character growth and development near the end of the book, and she has a really cute romance going on with a side character in this book, which I really enjoyed that dynamic between them. And I just loved this book. I loved Rachel so much, and I think this was just an amazing page turner. It kept me very, very interested. Like, there were times when I had to put down the book, and then I was just trying to hurry and get back to reading it because I just needed to know how it was going to end. And the plot twist did not disappoint, and I just really loved the writing. I loved the way that Holly kind of constructed this story. That way you could, once you figured out what the plot twist was, you could always look back and see the Easter eggs that she left. So I think it was just an amazing book. Thank you all so much for watching or clicking on this video. It means the world to me. I had so much fun telling you guys about all the books I read in April. My May reading plans are going to look very different. I'm going to try and mood read for the entire month of May, and I'm going to be on the lookout for some 5-star reads because I have not had that many 5-star reads so far this year, and it has been really upsetting. So I'm going to definitely try and find some new favorite books in May. And let me know what your favorite book was you read in April. And please be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. It really helps me out so much. And I just love you all so, so, so much. And I will see you in my next video. Happy reading.